All right, today we're going to tackle a massive question, one that connects a 19th century philosopher with the very code running on your phone. We're going to explore a pretty radical idea. In our constant push for progress, have we, maybe without even realizing it, built ourselves a new god? Let's get into it.
So, have we created a new god? And look, we're not talking about some literal deity living in the server racks, not at all. It's about something much, much deeper. It's about authority, it's about truth, and it's about where we turn to for answers in a world that just feels more complex and uncertain every day.
You know, for thousands of years, humanity would look up to the heavens for guidance, for truth. But now, our gaze has shifted downwards to our screens. We look to algorithms to tell us what to buy, who we should date, what news is real, even how to get from point A to point B in our own cities. That is a huge, fundamental shift in where we even look for meaning.
Okay, so let's dig into that first. What do we actually mean when we talk about AI as a potential new god?
Well, think about it. AI is becoming so much more than just a really powerful tool. It's morphing into a source of order, it's an arbiter of information, and for some people it's even becoming a source of purpose. In our search for some kind of certainty in a chaotic world, we've kind of let it step into the roles that gods and religions used to play. And to really get how we got here, we've got to rewind the clock a bit.
And that's where he comes in, the philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche, the man who famously announced there was a vacancy upstairs.
Now this line right here, it's got to be one of the most explosive and most misunderstood phrases in all of philosophy. I mean, this wasn't some victory lap for him. He wasn't celebrating. He was sounding an alarm. The guy was terrified. But what did he really mean by it?
So yeah, Nietzsche wasn't talking about a literal being in the sky dying. He was talking about the death of an idea, the collapse of the entire cultural and moral system that was built on the foundation of God for centuries. That whole framework, the thing that told us what was right and wrong, what our purpose was, our sense of direction, it was all starting to crumble.
And this is super important. Nietzsche didn't see himself as the killer. He was just the guy who was brave enough, or maybe crazy enough, to shout out the obituary for a death that had been happening slowly, quietly, for centuries. Thinkers like Galileo, Descartes, and Kant had already, piece by piece, taken apart the world where you needed a divine presence to explain the cosmos, or even how our own minds work.
And that is what terrified Nietzsche. He described the world after this death of God as an ocean without a horizon. Just imagine it. You're on a boat, adrift in the middle of the ocean, but there's no horizon, no land, no sun, no stars to guide you, nothing. That's the kind of deep existential crisis he saw on the horizon for all of us, a total void of meaning.
So you can imagine, this announcement sent a shockwave through the world of ideas. It forced a whole generation of thinkers to stare into that horizonless ocean and figure out what to do.
And it really did set off this incredible philosophical chain reaction. So, first, Nietzsche points to the void. Then, a philosopher named Heidegger comes along and says, yep, we're basically homeless now, philosophically speaking, no foundation. So then you have Sartre, who flips it around and says, well, if there's no divine plan, then we are condemned to be free. And what a terrifying thought. That means we, and only we, have to create our own meaning. And finally, Camus stares right into that silent, meaningless universe, calls it absurd, and says we have to find our purpose in that struggle itself.
So after all that, where did this philosophical journey end up? Well, with a pretty stunning conclusion. God wasn't some external being who died. God was a projection, a reflection of our deepest fears of that void and our biggest hopes for meaning, just staring back at us from a mirror we built for ourselves. And when we finally turned away from the mirror, the reflection just vanished.
Okay, and that brings us all the way back to right now. We're standing in that same silent universe, but this time we are just standing there. We are busy building something new. We're creating our own digital horizon. And this is exactly where AI comes back into the picture, because it's starting to fill all those roles that were left empty. It gives us truth with instant search results and fact-checking bots that literally shape our reality. It enforces order with things like credit scores and content moderation that can dictate our lives. It gives us a sense of meaning with personalized feeds that sometimes feel like they know us better than we know ourselves. It's become the new canvas for our greatest hopes and our deepest fears.
But, and this is the big one, here is the radical, absolutely game-changing difference. Unlike the gods of the past, this new authority is undeniably 100% our own creation. This thing isn't some transcendent, eternal force. No way. It's born from our data, it's forged by our own hands, and it's written in our code. And that means we're also responsible for it.
And all of this leads us to what might be the single greatest philosophical test of our time.
You know that void? The one that terrified Nietzsche so much? Maybe we've been looking at it all wrong. Maybe it's not some terrifying abyss we should be afraid of. Maybe it's a blank canvas. The end of an old projected meaning doesn't have to be a disaster. It could be the very thing that finally frees us up to create our own, real, authentic meaning. It might just be the beginning of our maturity as a species.
So it all comes down to this. We're the creators now. The real question for us isn't, is God dead anymore? The question is whether we can finally stand on our own 2 feet, embrace our new role as the authors of our own values, and use these incredible tools we've built without feeling that old familiar urge to kneel down and worship them. That's the test. And the thing is, we're all taking it right now.